Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
Hello, Geeky.
Hello, Kneon.
Instead of hello, nurse.
I was confused. I was like, what the hell? Oh, hello, nurse and the thing.
Hello, nurse. There is no hello, nurse in Animaniacs. We're going to talk about that. But the bigger issue with the Animaniacs reboot is that show creator Tom Reugger was not involved, consulted, or aware that they were rebooting his baby.
Yeah, and apparently that people were saying that he did know, but he himself commented and said, no, he didn't. Like, I know there was conversations apparently being had where, like, people are saying he didn't know. People inside the show said that, yes, he did. And that, you know, people are saying that he didn't know, but it wasn't true. And then he came out and said, no, it was true. I did not know. And so neither did a bunch of us.
Yeah.
So, you know, he came out and said, nope, not true.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. And this goes back to a video we did a couple months ago talking about how, now this is with Cartoon Network, but when you do an animated series for a studio, 9 times out of 10, you don't own it. They can reboot it. They can do with it whatever they want to do. And even if they verbally tell you that they're going to let you know if they're going to reboot your show, they legally don't have to.
Right. And they, you know, so they had the right to do it without him. It's a really shitty thing to do.
It's a very shitty thing to do. So we're going to talk about the shit show that is the new Animaniacs. I personally had no interest in watching it once I saw the trailer for it because I didn't like the animation style. But now that I know what's going on behind the scenes, I personally, again, this is a choice. You're free to make your own choice. I personally don't want to support the show.
No, and some of the things I've seen from it, the reviews aren't that great. I mean, It's a mixed bag. Like, some people think it's the best thing ever, but a lot of people are saying it's, including the media outlets, are saying that it's not the best thing ever. And you know, it didn't age well last time, and the jokes they're making again, they're pushing this time do not age well. And it seems like it's either reboot jokes or Trump jokes, or like the focus of their jokes for the show.
And Johnny Depp jokes. So
yes, apparently I heard about that.
We'll talk about that. Before we get into it, real quick, we do have pre-orders up for a new pin set. Check it out at shopclownfish.com. You can also get the first pin. We have a very, very limited number of those and some new holiday sweaters. I'll put a link in the description. So yeah, back to this whole concept of showrunners not owning their shows. Now, they used to have sort of a gentleman's agreement back in the day that if you were going to reboot a show or cartoon series, you at least give a phone call to the people involved.
But we know this is not going on. We saw it with, like, all these shows are getting rebooted, and they're not letting the original people involved in it. Even the ones that wanted to be, like Melody Britt wanted to be in She-Ra, and they wouldn't let her do it.
Yeah, now, I don't know the complete story, but I have heard, again, this is what I've heard with Melody Britt, that she actually wanted to try out for a role on the new She-Ra show, and they wouldn't even let her audition.
Right, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, so that's pretty crap. But this is what happened to Tom Reugger with Animaniacs, and you sent this over. Your friend Sarah
sent it to me. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. So this is they're like WTF. This is Richard Pachter, source close to the production disputes several details of Ruegger's account, insisting that Warner Brothers went out of its way to keep Ruegger's team informed about the revival and the fact that he would not be in charge of it. Now, you know, Tom Reugger is, of course, a legend in the television animation scene. Mm-hmm. He did create Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Hysteria. He's worked on a ton of other shows. He's worked for Hanna-Barbera.
Well, you're expecting these people to know that. Remember, until they invent it, by inventing it, I mean reboot it. By one time they invent it, it's all about them. It doesn't matter who came before and who did it. It's just about them, because they only invented it like now.
That's true. That is true.
This.
Yeah, and there's some person on the new show that I'm not even familiar with them. We're going to talk about some of the choices here, but here's Tom Reugger's response when they're saying that, hey, Warner told us that it's all fine here. He said, regardless of what Warner Brothers is now saying, I was not informed of the revival until it was announced to the public by Warner Brothers. This happens a lot.
Wait, Warner Brothers is something shitty? You don't say!
But this happens a lot. People are like, I didn't even know there was going to be a reboot. Well, Warner Brothers, this happened with Scoob, too. Mm-hmm. The voice cast of Scooby-Doo, the current voice cast for most of the TV shows and the movies, they were not aware that they were being replaced in the Scoob movie until it was announced by Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. So this seems to be an ongoing issue.
For Warner Brothers being so worried, and people in charge over there being so worried about, you know, looking bad and about, you know, not being accepting of bad behavior, they sure as hell have a lot of bad behavior themselves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So he continues. On that day, I was walking across to the grocery store parking lot, and when I learned about the revival, I just phoned Maurice LaMarche about something else. Of course, being a voice actor, Maurice LaMarche, about something else, and he answered the call by saying, sorry. I said, sorry about what? He realized I hadn't heard the news that was reported that morning. He proceeded to tell me that Warner Brothers had just announced a revival/reboot of Animaniacs, and the showrunner was some guy named Wellesley Wild. I remember this moment vividly because the second I heard the news, and while not paying attention to anything but the phone call and the bad news, I walked into a metal girder sticking out of the back of a parked truck, smashing my forehead. I slammed down to the pavement. I'm not sure what Maurice heard at the end of the phone call, probably a clong sound effect along with an ow, and probably a holy shit, I'm bleeding. Anyway, contrary to the statement above, Warner's did not go out of its way to keep Ruegger's team informed about the revival. I'm not sure who they're referring to when they say Ruegger's team. If they're including original Animaniacs series producer, writer, story editor Sherry Stoner as part of Ruegger's team, they never contacted her, ever. And they never contacted me, ever. Until my agent peppered them with phone calls and emails, and then Warner Brothers made it clear to my agent that they would not be including me in the reboot.
Mm-hmm. Which is really nice, right?
Yeah, right?
It's like you go your way, you invent something, you do something, and they don't even give you the option of being involved. If you said no, you're busy, that's one thing. But they don't even give you the option because they're going to spin it now as it's. But they're being very clear it's a reboot. Unlike other shows.
Yeah.
But, it just doesn't have the same, it's not going to feel the same because it's not the same people. And a lot of times, the people that get on these new shows, quite frankly, despise the source material, think everything about it's problematic because they usually are Twitter, activists in some way. Mm-hmm. And that they're going to use this platform to basically shove their ideas into something and use it as an activism platform. And that's exactly what Animaniacs always was, kind of political, but still.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But anyway, this is the guy that's in charge of the new show now, Wellesley Wild, and they had an interview with him. And just to show you kind of where their headspace is, and maybe this is why they didn't call Mr. Ruegger in, one of the victims of the cultural paradigm shift from the 90s to today was Hello's nurse, Heloise Nurse. Yeah, she has a name. I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. Yakko and Wacko's crush and the blonde target for the brothers' signature Hello Nurse catchphrase. As Swar puts it, immediately Hello Nurse was goodbye nurse, noting that running gags like these simply wouldn't work in 2020.
Right, because in 2020, you're not allowed to like women unless you're another woman.
Yeah, Dot had to be reimagined as more of a feminine force that now outsmarts her brothers.
Which she did before.
Now, what's really interesting is, people have been complaining about a lot of the characters, a lot of the spice that made the original show so good is missing from this reboot.
Well, it's not that they're trying to put spice back in it, but they're taking it too far, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. The Mary Sue, though, even pointed out that they were sad about Hello Nurse being gone. Slappy.
Really?
Yes.
Because this is like we're the Mary Sue, the feminism platform times 100, and they're mad about Hello Nurse.
Yeah, they said that they're bummed out. Where's Slappy Squirrel? Where are all the other characters? I suppose there's a chance they didn't show up in the episodes we got for the screening, but I'm not sure why something like that would be excluded. Where's my episode with Katie Kaboom 22 years later? What's up with the Good Feathers, Buttons, and Mindy? Where's Hello Nurse at? Where are they?
Yeah, this is from a blog that usually, calls people ists and phobes. And they probably took it out because they were worried about what places like the Mary Sue would say. Well, you lost your characters because you keep bitching and whining about everything else, but Hello Nurse was okay. Even though somebody else did something similar, you'd yell about it.
Well, that's the thing about, Animaniacs in general is, I think if you had a deft hand behind the scenes working on the show now, you could bring it into current year kind of intact. But a lot of those jokes are products of their time. Mm-hmm. Just like a lot of the old Warner Brothers Looney Tunes shorts are products of their time, and you have to understand the climate.
It's like they want the IP, but they want to make it something now, but it's not ever going to work now because it's a product of its time, and they just don't understand that.
The reviews are not stellar. I've heard mixed things. We've had people say, hey, you need to watch it. It's not that bad. But I think at this point, we are so used to really, really shitty reboots like Thundercats and She-Ra that anything that's not absolutely god-awful is okay.
Right.
I mean, our standards have been lowered. And
it's interesting. The media is all like, normally, like 2 years ago, they'd be like, how dare you criticize Animaniacs, you islamphobes? And now they're like,
Now, NBC, they're pointing out that a lot of the Hillary jokes did not age well. They said the real kicker is when the showrunners resurrect anti-feminist, anti-Hillary images from the 90s. It's an ugly reminder of how these cartoons reflected attitudes that are thankfully no longer funny.
Actually, one, you're not allowed to be funny.
Yeah.
And two, they're still funny because it's still not untrue. It's just, you're just not allowed to think it's funny now because if you do, Twitter will cancel you.
Well, NBC's pointing out, they're pointing out that Tom Reugger had a deft hand. They could take the educational directive, which they had in cartoon shows back then. You had to have a certain amount. That's why they always had the PSAs at the end of cartoons. Well, they would do these ridiculous songs about geography or whatever. And it was kind of funny the way they did it. And they had a great bit, and they also, fulfilled the mandate that they had to educate kids.
These people don't understand is when something is popular and it's beloved, it's done so for a reason. And usually it's because the people that are behind the show, people that made the show are the ones ultimately the ones people love. You can't just trade them out for new people and expect it to all work. I also want to take a moment to point out that Mary Sue's all pissed about this one because it meant something to them.
Yes.
But when people like me are mad about She-Ra or you're mad at Thundercats Roar or whatever, they're just islamphobes and terrible people. How dare they need to learn to understand things get updated. But when it's something they like, it's okay, but where's all the good stuff that you liked? Well, potato, pot kettle there, Mary Sue.
Yeah, right. But they point out that, Ruegger used to do really good with the educational content, but they said here, and we're going to talk about the politics. This is how they end it on NBC's review. In the 90s, hating all politicians and sneering at both sides was the disengaged way. But here, it just reminds us that being apathetic can have pretty serious consequences. In attempting to reboot a beloved children's classic, Animaniacs reminds us that change is often a good thing and some parts of the past are better left behind.
Well, my understanding from the new show is that it used to be that they make fun of everyone. Now they only make fun of one person in politics.
Yeah.
And they're making fun of, Trump. Every other joke is a damn Trump joke or about a joke about why they're a reboot. And then they throw in some other jokes like Johnny Depp. It seems like there's definitely an anti-man, anti-right side agenda to this show. And before it was like they kind of just poke fun at everyone.
But see, that's the difference in culture. Back in the 90s, a lot of
people were rational and fair.
Yeah. I mean, look, people were either political or they weren't political.
You didn't have to be.
No, you didn't have to be. I mean, the most we had, as far as like activism goes, we had, of course, we had people that were like environmental activists and stuff like that. And that they used to roast too in cartoons. They were like, oh my God, the tree huggers. Like I remember the Cartoon Network interstitial they had. With Wally Gator. The activists tried to take Wally Gator out of the zoo and put him in the wild, but he hated the wild. He liked it in the zoo. And, that was kind of funny. They used to poke fun at, tree huggers and hippies and the whole thing. But
back then they poked fun at it was everybody was fair game. And, now it's like there's definitely an agenda towards one side. And I love how you can poke fun at that. You can make fun of, Trump all you want. But, having the hello nurse is in poor taste. And I'm just like, really? And like I said, I'll mention it again because there'll always be some dumbass idiot. Yeah, because you're a, MAGA hat, whatever. No, I don't like Trump, actually. I don't like Biden either. So I didn't like either candidate, but I am not a Trump supporter. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that it's every other joke, it gets old. People are commenting. First joke, okay. By the 6th or 7th, it was like, really? Are we still going there?
I think that's what's going to mark this era in entertainment is, 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back and go like, what the hell was up with all the Trump jokes? Like, this did not age well at all. A lot of people will be like, oh, yeah, Trump, I remember him.
Well, they made Clinton jokes in the original one. They did. But it wasn't to the extent. Everybody's complaining. They're like, yeah, they threw some in there. They made some political jokes. But one, they kind of were, making fun of everyone. And two, they made a couple. They're like, this is like every stupid episode. They're like shoving these jokes in there.
Yeah, so, it is what it is, right? It's very current year. But, I mean, if it is very current year and it does not deal with topics with a deft hand, it's probably because the people who did that, who created the show, are not involved.
Well, the people that keep doing stuff like we're seeing on this new show are the same people that keep rebooting everything. And they're people that didn't create it, don't give two fucks about it. Sorry, Mom. They're just doing it because they want to, the original was problematic. I'm here to fix it and make it modern day. And all you're doing is just making everybody not watch it.
So this is Warner Brothers Animation that decided Elmer Fudd shouldn't have a gun.
Yes.
Okay, this is Warner Brothers Animation that decided they were going to replace the entire cast of Scooby-Doo and not tell them.
Yep.
They found out in a press release, right? This is Warner Brothers that thought it was a good idea to reboot Thundercats as Thundercats Roar. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, they're very much a mixed bag. They do some fantastic stuff, but their decision-making and their PR is sorely lacking. So now
and
we
then
have
they
this.
keep losing money, and they're like, why are we losing money? Why isn't it going over gangbusters? And it's because people are just tired. I have some friends who watched it, and they're like, not saying one way or another, but you can tell because they're not giving it glowing reviews. And there's somebody who, if they liked it a lot, they'd say, I love it, here's why. And they're like, I watched an episode or two. I'm going to wait until I see more till I can form an opinion, which to me says, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I might watch it if I'm completely bored and there's nothing else to watch. I just have no desire. I've heard too much about it. I've seen clips. And now that I know the Tom Reugger story, I'm not interested in supporting the show.
Well, look at this. Look at this comment here. Gave it a 3.5. Good, but not great. Worth the once through. Although it's hard to remember exactly how topical the original was, I can confidently say it wasn't as political. This reboot is very political, and they choose a side. Guess which ones. The songs are clever, and there are a lot of good pot shots, but some of it's just name dropping. Not as good as the original. It isn't a good enough reason to give it a 1-star rating as some above me did, but it's actually almost as good. One of the areas it lacks is ensemble characters. Were the voice actors unavailable? No, they took it out because they're problematic, according to these people. Even though people that would normally scream about how problematic it is are mad that, any other show did it, that's problematic. But because the Animaniacs, something they love, didn't do it. Where's my favorite characters that I would normally say are problematic?
Yeah, so, I mean, this one's a mixed bag, I think. Like I said, there certainly have been worse reboots. At least they attempted to do something resembling the original, but the fact that they cut Tom Reugger out the way that they did is...
And other people, worked with him.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows how much love they have for people who create these IPs that go on to last for decades, these corporations milk. And I think going forward, it would be in a showrunner's best interest to somehow, if possible, to somehow be able to work in some kind of a clause that if you ever reboot my show, a handshake deal's not good enough. I need to be involved, especially when these companies are getting bought and sold all the time and stuff gets lost in the shuffle.
At least as a consultant.
Yeah, just bring me in just to consult. I don't need, you don't have to give me producer credit or anything like that, but just bring me in to ask questions.
And I was like, the scores aren't that bad until I realized there's only 19 critical and 29 audience. That's all. No one cares enough to review this.
Doug Walker likes it.
What else is new?
30%
political messaging.
Cluttered narratives, lack of crucial characters. 30% can go a long way, but there's too much great comedy that can't be overlooked. Yeah.
Going after so many targets, it chases its own tail.
That's the AV club.
More often than not, the focus on how messed up the world is now gives 2020 Animaniacs more of a sour aftertaste. Animaniacs is supposed to be nostalgic and a new show for a new generation, but doesn't succeed at either. Like I said, these are probably people who grew up with it, and they're just pissed because they rebooted it and they took out a lot of things they loved from it. But the irony is, again, these people who are yelling about this are the same ones yelling about these, how She-Ra is so wonderful because they inserted all these new things into it. And if you don't agree, you're just in a foam. And Thundercats Roar, God, it's so great because, they updated it and made it more funny. And until you mess with what they love. And then it's like, this isn't as good and this kind of sucks. How very dare you instant phobes? What's wrong with you? It's a new show. You should educate yourself and understand it's not for you. It's for new fans. They don't care about you. You're problematic if you think Hello Nursery put back in. How very dare you? I just think the irony is just too great to not mention.
Yeah, so we I don't know. I don't know where to go with this. I think we've already seen the 70s and 80s be completely strip mined. Now they're coming from the 90s and the 2000s. Now you're going to hear the media start to complain. It's your turn.
Because that was the stuff they love.
Yeah, it's your turn. You guys are next. Here it comes. Just realize these companies do not care about your childhood. They don't care about the people who made your childhood.
Nope.
Whether it's Disney or Warner or any of these corporations, it's just IP to them.
And they just care about whatever the buzzwords are to make it look like they're being, diverse and inclusive and all this other shit, even if it destroys everything that made it funny and, you loved them the first time. Like Hello Nurse, even people who are super, on about identity politics and stuff are like, that was a funny joke, why'd they take it out? Because people like you keep bitching about how this stuff's wrong, so they try to appeal to you and appease you because you keep going on about it, and now they ruined what you love too.
See, they could have updated Hello Nurse. They could have had her on Twitch selling her bath water.
No, they could have had it in a male nurse, and it could have been for Dot.
It could have been Henry Cavill as Hello Nurse.
I would have been down with that.
Male nurse.
There you go, Hello Nurse. No, that wouldn't have worked either. But you know what I'm saying. It's just like people would have been mad about that too. I'm just saying they changed it because people were reading about things from the past and they wanted to be like, well, that stuff isn't acceptable today. So they changed it because these people are yelling all the time, and then the people that were yelling all the time are mad. They changed it. I just think it's hilarious.
God. All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Like I said, people were like, "Where's the review?" I'm not gonna review it. I'm not gonna watch it, especially after hearing how they treated Tom Reugger. I'm not interested.
And we loved that show when I was a kid. My mom, Pinky the Brain, she loves it. She still quotes it. So
Yeah, it's just another okay, whatever. It's just a strip mine and nostalgia.
What are we gonna do tonight, Brain? Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to ruin everything.
Right, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
Talk to you later.
Bye.